What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. If there was one thing that had been exposed during the Raptors playoff series versus the 76ers was that the Raptors really desperately need a center. That had been something I had been preaching since the offseason. I absolutely understand that Masai Ujiri wanted to go with a lineup of 6'8", 6'9" switchable defenders, but this was one of the reasons why I had mentioned needing a center on this roster. I mentioned this several times throughout the season that in case the Raptors run into a big man like Joel Embiid in the playoffs, that was going to be an issue, and that definitely proved to be an issue for the Toronto Raptors as well. Now, it was a retooling year, so I didn't exactly expect the Raptors to make a huge playoff run, but it was still disappointing to see how just no one, absolutely no one on the Raptors roster could even contain. Forget about stopping Joel Embiid because he was an MVP candidate this year, but not even contain him. He was pretty much just bullying every Raptors that was trying to guard him. But obviously, the NBA draft is coming up, and we have to talk about a few centers the Raptors could potentially take a look at in this year's NBA draft. So if you're ready to watch this video, guys, make sure to hit the like button. Let's try to get this video to 100 likes. If you want to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, as you guys know, I do like to give out shoutouts on my channel, and for today's video, the shoutout goes out to Sue. So Sue, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Your likes and comments, it is very much appreciated. Now let's talk about center number one that the Raptors should definitely take a look at. And this is one that a lot of Raptors fans have mentioned in the Raptors community, and that is Christian Koloko. So Christian Koloko, he's a 21-year-old. He's listed at 7'1". Without shoes, he's about 7 feet. Listed at 225 pounds. Some websites have him listed at 230. And of course, he's got that gigantic wingspan of 7 feet 5 inches, which is something Masai Ujiri definitely looks for. He looks for these tall, switchable defenders. And one thing he mentioned at the end of the press conference in this year's NBA season was that if the Raptors could find guys like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, he would find 15 of those guys. And Christian Koloko really fits into that bill. When we talk about Christian Koloko, we talk about Pascal Siakam, and there's definitely a lot of similarities between these two players. Now, besides the fact that they are both from Cameroon and the fact that both of them did not start playing basketball until quite late, and shout out to Yahoo Sports, who was talking about Christian Koloko, and they talked about pretty much how he was playing soccer when he was younger, and he didn't pick up basketball until much later. That's why his skill sets aren't necessarily there. His offensive game is not there. His shot isn't there. But what really helped him in playing soccer was the fact that he does have quick feet. Again, shout out to Yahoo Sports. They're doing a good job of covering some of the NBA prospects. But it's quite interesting because when Raptors look for centers, they don't normally just look for traditional slow-footed centers. They look for ones that are able to move. And this is going to be quite interesting because we know Pascal didn't exactly bloom into his career until the Raptors signed him. And even then, it took him a few seasons to really get going. But he was really raw coming into this league. And I see some of the same similarities with Christian Koloko. Again, when you pick up basketball late, your skills are normally ideally going to develop late as well. But I want to quickly touch on his stats here before we start talking about some of his games. Now, taking a look at his stats, he played about 25.4 minutes with Arizona this season. Shot the ball pretty efficiently from the field, 63.5%. His free throw percentage wasn't all that bad as well. 73.5 isn't all that bad for a center. Decent rebounder, 7.3 rebounds. And as you take a look at there, he is a really good rim protector. 2.8 blocks per game is quite impressive. 12.6 points. Again, his offensive game is not there yet, but let's talk about his defense. He is an amazing defender. He is able to switch on different players because of his quick feet, and that really will help the Raptors because we know the Raptors definitely look for players that are able to switch onto multiple positions, that can guard multiple positions, and Christian Koloko is just that player. He's also a good rim protector, which the Raptors desperately need, so he would be a really nice addition to the Raptors. Now, talking about his offensive game, he definitely does need some work. He has a nice mid-range game. His shot looks really nice. When you take a look at how his shooting form is, it looks solid, and I think it's one of those cases, much like how the Raptors did with Pascal Siakam, with Scottie Barnes, and even OG Anunoby, who wasn't known for his offense when he came into the league. They can definitely improve his shot and work on his offensive game, but the most important part is his defense is there, and the Raptors love defense. That's quite obvious with all of the 6'9" guys they signed who are able to play good defense. So again, Christian Koloko would fit in very nicely with the Raptors. The one thing I will say, he is very raw, so he still has a lot of ways to go before he can actually become an impact player for the Toronto Raptors. So it's very likely he's probably going to spend a lot of time in the G League just to develop. And of course, his offensive game is not there yet. His post game is actually really nice, but outside of that, he doesn't stretch the floor. He has that jump shot. He's actually been compared to someone like a DeAndre Ayton, I don't see the similarities there because I actually believe Christian Koloko moves a lot faster. Just generally, his lateral speed is a lot better. He can guard multiple positions. So I think Christian Koloko is a lot better in that sense. But again, he will be quite an interesting prospect if the Raptors do draft him with the 33rd spot. Now, moving on to our second center here. And this is personally my favorite prospect who I believe the Raptors could potentially definitely actually take a look at with the 33rd spot in this year's NBA draft. Now, it is to know Christian Koloko actually has not worked out with the Toronto Raptors, but he is a very interesting prospect. But this one, Ishmael Kamagate, French prospect playing in France. This was a prospect the Raptors had actually sent a couple of scouts over to really look at his game. And in fact, he has already worked out with the Toronto Raptors as well, which just kind of gives you an idea of how high the Raptors are on him. So he's a 21-year-old. He's listed at 6'11". Google has him listed at 6'9" without shoes, I'm obviously assuming. But again, he's a 21-year-old. He can definitely grow into that 6'11" frame that a lot of websites have him listed at. He's weighing around 220 pounds. And again, much like Christian Koloko, he needs to add a little bit more strength. And you see that with a lot of centers coming into this league. They need to add a little bit more weight, gain a little bit more strength, but he also has an enormous wingspan of 7 feet, 3 inches as well. So he fits in with the Raptors' mobility of having these great defenders who can switch on to different defenders and guard multiple positions. So that will be Ishmael Kamagate. Now, talking about Ishmael Kamagate, and just to quickly touch upon his stats, again, he shoots the ball fairly efficiently, 64.3%. But much like Christian Koloko, he does not shoot the three-point ball at all. Now, taking a look at his free throw percentage as well, it isn't all that great. 65.4% isn't that great. He's a decent rebounder. I wouldn't call him a great rebounder, but he does protect the rim as well. 1.6 blocks per game is pretty decent for someone who's playing 27 minutes, and he averaged about 11.3 points in the Paris Basketball League. So again, he's a very raw prospect. And if I had to choose between the two, it's fair to say that Ishmael Kamagate actually is a lot more raw in terms of that talent and not being NBA ready compared to Christian Koloko, but his ceiling is definitely a lot higher than Christian Koloko. I've been watching a lot of draft videos, and a lot of people have gone on to say that Christian Koloko, they've compared him to guys like Clint Capella and not being someone that can potentially be a starter in today's NBA. But Ishmael Kamagate, on the other hand, has an enormous ceiling. Again, he is very raw overall as a player. He doesn't have an offensive game. He does not even have, I would say, a good post move. Not that you doesn't necessarily need your big man to have post moves, but that is just an easy way for a lot of centers to get baskets. But some of the areas he does definitely prove capable of is being a good lob threat. So anytime the ball is thrown at the rim, he is there to dunk it for those alley hoops. So he's going to be quite fun to see Ishmael Kamagate, if he does get drafted by the Toronto Raptors, to him, kind of get those lobs from Scotty Barnes, to get him from Pascal Siakam as well. So he's going to be a very fun prospect. But again, when you talk about the Raptors and some of the prospects they look at, they don't necessarily take a look at guys that could be good bench players. Like, obviously, there's guys like, I said this on JJ Bucket's video as well, that there are definitely guys like Julian Champagny who can come in and probably have more of an impact than both of these two players I have mentioned in my video. But the Raptors don't look for guys that could be good bench pieces, especially late in the draft. They're looking for guys that they're very raw but have amazing potential and have a really high ceiling in this league, right? So again, Ishmael Kamagate and Christian Koloko are two of those players, and I really do believe Ishmael Kamagate, if he's available, I think the Raptors will definitely take a look at him in this year's NBA draft. He's quite an interesting prospect. Again, he has a lot to learn about the NBA game. He's probably realistically going to be in the NBA G League for the entire season. That's how raw he is, just to kind of give you an idea. And realistically speaking, he's probably even further away from Christian Koloko being NBA ready. And I'd probably go as far as to say he's probably a good 3 to 5 years away from having a positive impact on the Raptors, even considering like playing good, consistent bench minutes. So again, he is a very raw prospect, but his ceiling is unbelievably high when we talk about prospects that could definitely be a bright future for the Raptors in the near future. So again, I want to hear your thoughts on these two players. I know a lot of people are high on Christian Koloko, but I do want to hear your thoughts on Ishmael Kamagate as well. What are your thoughts on him and the Raptors potentially taking him with the 33rd overall pick? If you did have a choice between Christian Koloko and Ishmael Kamagate, both of these two players are available. Who would you want the Raptors to select? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, guys, I do have a trivia question for you today. And that trivia question is, which of these players was selected by the Raptors in the second round? Was it A, Joey Graham? Was it B, Kareem Rush? Was it C, Tyson Wheeler? Or was it D, Michael Bradley? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.